She said it like a sigh, not an order. Let's finish this together. And for some reason, those words hit deeper than they should have. It was past 8. The rest of the office was dark, the hum of the copier echoing somewhere behind the walls. Only her light was still on, that soft yellow pool over stacks of files and her half-drunk cup of tea. She sat behind her desk, hair slightly loose from the day, glasses resting halfway down her nose. I wasn't supposed to still be there. She wasn't supposed to need help. But the way she looked up when I walked past, tired eyes, small smile, that quiet stay in her gaze, I couldn't leave. She gestured toward the documents spread in front of her. You type faster than I do, she said, trying to sound light. And I could use another pair of eyes. Sure, I said, pretending that was all it was. I moved around the desk, close enough to smell her perfume, faint like citrus and something older, maybe jasmine. She shifted her chair to make room, knees almost brushing mine. The space between us felt charged, like the air right before a storm. We worked in silence for a while. The only sounds were the soft tapping of keys, the turning of pages, the slow rhythm of her breathing. Every now and then, her hand would reach across the papers, and I'd feel her sleeve brush against my arm. Nothing intentional, but I couldn't stop noticing. She leaned forward to point at a line in the document. There, she said quietly. See the typo? Her finger hovered over the screen, but my eyes weren't on the text. I was watching how the light touched the curve of her wrist, the way her voice softened when she spoke close. She noticed, not the staring, but the pause that gave me away. Her eyes flicked toward me, steady, unreadable. Long day? She asked. Something like that. She nodded slowly, studying me in that quiet way she had. Not searching, just seeing. It made me straighten a little, like I'd been caught slouching in the middle of something fragile. You're too young to look that tired, she said with a faint smile. Maybe I'm catching up, I replied. Her laugh was small, but real. She looked down, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The moment lingered, just enough to blur the line between casual and something else. Then she reached past me again, this time for a pen. Her fingers brushed my hand. Just a second, barely a touch, but it was enough to shift everything. The silence after was heavier. She didn't move her hand away immediately. Neither did I. The air between us grew thick, full of things we weren't saying. She finally spoke, barely above a whisper. You should be careful staying late. People might get the wrong idea. I should have laughed. I should have stepped back. But I didn't. I just looked at her, the faint shine on her lip gloss, the way her pulse moved at her throat. What idea would that be? I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer. She just looked at me, really looked, and for a moment, the world went still. Then came a sound, a soft click from the hallway. The door handle turned. Her hand slipped from mine, and just like that, the spell broke. She straightened, smoothing her blouse, voice calm again. Keep working, she murmured. We're almost done. But when our eyes met one last time before the door opened, it was clear neither of us believed that. The next morning, she walked past my desk like nothing had happened. Her hair was tied up again, her glasses back on, her tone clipped and professional. But her good morning came a second too late, and her eyes didn't quite meet mine. I told myself it was nothing, that I'd imagined the way her hand had lingered on mine, the way her breath had caught before the door opened. But when she asked me to bring the reports to her office when I had a minute, I knew she hadn't forgotten either. When I walked in, she was standing by the window, sunlight cutting across her face. Her blazer hung on the chair, and her sleeves were rolled up. She looked softer than usual, tired, maybe, or pretending to be fine. You didn't sleep much, did you? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. You think you can tell? You look different. She smiled faintly. That's polite for saying I look terrible. That's not what I meant. And what did you mean? I didn't answer. The silence stretched, and she turned back toward the window. I was married once, she said finally, voice quiet but steady. Didn't work. He wanted someone who could stop thinking about work. I couldn't. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. She turned back, eyes sharper now, as if she regretted saying it all. Anyway, I didn't call you in to talk about that. But the moment was already cracked open, and I could see the truth sitting there. Her calmness wasn't confidence. It was armor. When I handed her the folder, our fingers brushed again. It shouldn't have mattered. But this time, she didn't move her hand away right away. Just a second too long, the kind of second that lives in your head for hours afterward. She cleared her throat softly. "You're what, 24? 26, I said. Still, a small, wry smile. "You have no idea how quickly 26 disappears. You talk like you're 100. Some days it feels like it." She laughed quietly, a real one this time, and the sound hit something in me I didn't want to name. There was a framed photo on her desk, an old one, slightly faded. Two people smiling, one of them her younger, freer. She noticed me looking. "That was before," she said simply. "Before I learned how to be careful." "Do you regret it?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Not the love, just the timing." The room went still again. I could hear the faint hum of the air vent, the distant chatter of someone down the hall. She stepped closer, maybe to take the folder from me, maybe not. Close enough that I could feel her breath on my neck when she spoke. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she murmured. I swallowed hard. "Like what?" She didn't answer. She just held my gaze, eyes soft and sad and full of something I couldn't name. Then she reached past me, took the folder, and said, too quickly, "You can go now." But as I turned to leave, her hand brushed my sleeve. Just a flicker, a quiet, human mistake. I stopped. She didn't pull back immediately. Neither of us said anything. And for the second time in 2 days, silence said everything that happened on a Thursday. One of those gray, humming afternoons when time feels heavy and fluorescent lights hum too loud. She'd asked me to help with the quarterly numbers again. It was becoming a habit. We both pretended it wasn't. I walked in without knocking this time. She didn't look up right away, just said, "Close the door," as if she'd been expecting me. The blinds were half closed, thin lines of light striping her desk. Papers everywhere. She was leaning over them, hair falling to one side, concentration fixed and unbothered by my silence. "Here," I said, setting down the file. "Updated projections." She nodded, still reading. "Stay a minute. I might need help checking the totals." So I did. We worked side by side again, like always, except this time, the air between us felt heavier, taut. Her sleeve brushed mine once, twice. I didn't move away. Neither did she. She glanced up finally, just a flick of her eyes toward me. "You really don't know when to leave, do you?" I smiled. "You keep asking me to stay." That earned me a small laugh, quiet, breathy, gone too soon. Then her phone buzzed on the desk. A name flashed on the screen, Daniel. She froze, barely perceptible, before flipping it face down. "Your husband?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her jaw tightened. But yes. I shouldn't have asked. I knew that. Still, I said, "He still calls." "Sometimes." She exhaled through her nose, shaking her head. Old habits die slower than people. The silence after that felt like standing at the edge of something. Too close to the drop, too far to step back. She reached for a pen, dropped it. It rolled toward me. When I bent to grab it, she did too, and our hands met underneath the desk. Both of us freezing mid-motion, skin against skin, pulse against pulse. For a second, neither of us breathed. When she looked up, her face was inches from mine. Close enough to see the faint crease by her mouth, the shimmer of lip gloss she'd half rubbed off during the day. I could smell her, soft, warm, something expensive and familiar now. She started to speak, stopped, then whispered, "We can't." I know, but neither of us moved. She blinked once. Someone could walk in. As if the words summoned it, a knock rattled the door. "Hey, Ms. Reynolds," a voice called from the hallway. "You in there?" She shot up, backing away, grabbing for her blazer-like armor. 1 second. The sound of her voice, calm, composed, didn't match the color in her cheeks. The door opened a crack, one of the interns poking his head in. "Just dropping off the mail." She smiled politely. "Thank you, Jake. Leave it there." He nodded, left. The door clicked shut again. We both stood still, caught between laughter and panic. Then she turned toward me, eyes glassy with something unsaid. "I told you this can't happen," she said softly. "You keep saying that," I whispered back, "but you don't walk away." She didn't answer. She just looked at me, long enough for the clock to tick twice, long enough for both of us to forget why we shouldn't. Then she reached past me again, her fingers brushing my wrist. A slow, trembling breath. "Don't make me ask you to stay again," she murmured. But her hand didn't move away, and neither did mine. Rain had been threatening all day, and by the time everyone left, it came down hard, loud against the windows, steady, isolating. The office emptied one by one until it was just us again. She stood by the window, watching the city disappear behind sheets of water. Her reflection in the glass looked softer than she'd ever let me see. Tired, beautiful, human. "You should go," she said without turning. "I don't mind the rain." Her voice came quieter. "You mind me, though. You just don't know how to say it. That stopped me cold." She turned then, eyes sharp, holding something between defiance and surrender. "You think I don't notice? The way you look at me. I don't try to," I said. "It just happens." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "That's worse." I stepped closer, the space shrinking. "You could tell me to stop." "I have," she said, not moving. "Not really." The air between us thinned, the kind of silence that hums, alive and dangerous. "I'm twice your age," she said. "People would talk. They'd call it something ugly. I don't care what they call it. You should." She looked down at my hand, resting near hers on the desk. Not touching, but close enough that the warmth was there. The rain outside filled the quiet. "I don't want to ruin you," she whispered. "You couldn't." Her eyes flicked up to mine. "You don't know what I ruin." Something cracked open in her voice. Not anger, not shame, something older. Without thinking, I reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. My fingers grazed her temple, slow, hesitant. She didn't move away. For the first time, she looked uncertain, like someone who'd spent years being sure and finally ran out of ground. "I can't keep pretending this doesn't," I started. She cut me off. "Don't." Her breath hitched. "Don't finish that." But she leaned in anyway, just slightly, close enough that her breath warmed my chin, her perfume caught the back of my throat. "You make it hard to think," she murmured. "Then don't think." Her lips parted just barely. The rain got louder, like it knew. "You'll regret this," she said. "Maybe," I whispered, "but not tonight." She closed her eyes, exhaled, her hand finding my wrist. Not to pull me closer, not to push me away, just to feel that I was there. Seconds stretched. Every breath, every heartbeat counted. Then, a flash of light filled the room, followed by a sharp clap of thunder. The power went out, plunging everything into soft blue-gray shadow. She startled, her body pressing against mine in the dark. My hands caught her by instinct, her waist, her shoulder. We froze like that, both breathing hard, the world reduced to the sound of rain and the rhythm between us. In the darkness, her voice came quiet, unsteady. "If you don't step back now," she said, "I won't." And I didn't move, not even when the lights flickered once, as if deciding whether to come back. Not even when she whispered my name, the first time she'd ever said it like that. The lights came back an hour later, but everything had already changed. We didn't talk about what almost happened, not in words. We just stood there afterward, her fixing her hair, me pretending to gather papers that didn't need gathering. But our silence carried weight, thick and unfinished. The next day, she avoided me. Emails instead of meetings. Quick instructions. No eye contact. I told myself it was better that way. Clean, professional, safe. Then I saw her office door half open. Her voice, low, careful, in another man's voice. "Familiar. I told you to stop calling me here," she was saying. "You didn't tell me you were seeing someone." I froze. The voice was her ex-husband's, Daniel. "I'm not," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Then who's the kid in your office at 9 every night?" There was silence. Then, softer, her voice. "He's just helping. That's all." Something in me twisted. I didn't wait to hear more. I walked down the hall before she could see me, my pulse thudding in my throat. When she came by later, pretending it was a normal check-in, I could barely meet her eyes. "Are you all right?" she asked quietly. "Why wouldn't I be?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have." She studied me, the way she always did, as if trying to read what I wasn't saying. Finally, I said it. "I heard you." Her lips parted, but no sound came. She blinked once, then said softly, That wasn't for you to hear. But you said it, I said. You said I was just helping. She looked down, hands gripping the edge of the desk. What was I supposed to say? That I let someone half my age stay late because I can't tell if I want him to leave or not. The words hit hard, too honest, too bare. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have heard that, and you shouldn't lie about me." That got her to look up. "You think I wanted to lie?" I stepped closer, my voice low. "Then what do you want?" She flinched like I'd touched something raw. "Don't ask me that." "Why not?" "Because I don't trust what I'd say." Her hands trembled slightly as she turned away, pacing once, twice. Then she stopped, still facing the window. "You remind me of who I was," she said, "before I started being careful, before I learned what people do with stories like ours." I moved closer, my reflection joining hers in the glass, two outlines in the rainy light. "Maybe we stop worrying about stories," I said quietly. Her voice broke on a whisper. "And start what, exactly?" I reached out, fingers grazing the back of her hand. She didn't move away this time. Her shoulders rose, slow, uneven, a breath caught halfway between fear and want. "You make me reckless," she said. "You make me honest." We stood like that, hands barely touching, every nerve awake, until she finally turned toward me, eyes bright with something I hadn't seen before. "Then maybe honesty's the mistake," she said, voice shaking, "because I can't take it back once it starts." And for the first time, I saw it, not just longing or regret, but the quiet decision behind her eyes. She stepped closer, close enough that every word after that came out as breath. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "after hours." Then she pulled her hand away and walked past me, leaving the scent of her perfume, the echo of rain, and the promise that tomorrow wouldn't be the same. The building was almost silent when I came in. Even the rain had stopped, leaving that washed-out quiet that hangs after a storm. Her light was on. Of course it was. She didn't look surprised to see me, only tired, like she'd already spent the whole day arguing with herself and lost. "You came," she said softly. "You asked me to." She nodded once, slow. "Maybe I shouldn't have." I closed the door behind me. "You always say that before something happens." That almost got a smile. Almost. She leaned against the desk, hands gripping the edge. Her eyes flicked toward me and then down, like she couldn't decide where to look. "This isn't a game, you know. I never thought it was." "Then what do you think it is?" I took a breath, the words rough in my throat. "I think it's the one thing we keep pretending we don't want." She didn't answer. The silence stretched until I could hear the faint hum of the old ceiling light. Then she said, "You're young enough to move on, to forget this before it ruins you." I stepped closer. "You keep saying that like it's a kindness." She held her ground. "And you keep standing there like you don't know what it costs." Her voice trembled, but her chin didn't drop. I was close enough now to see the small pulse at her neck, to feel the warmth radiating off her skin. "You're shaking," I said quietly. "So are you." She gave a small, unsteady laugh, the kind people make when they're already past the point of pretending. I reached up, brushing a lock of hair from her face. My hand lingered at her jaw. She closed her eyes, not pulling away, not leaning in, just letting the moment decide. "Tell me to stop," I whispered. She opened her eyes, and for once there was no guard, no performance, just her. "I can't," she said. "I've told you everything else. I just can't say that." That was it, the line breaking. We didn't move fast. We didn't need to. The world had narrowed to breath and pulse and closeness. Her hands found my shoulders, light at first, then firmer. She leaned her forehead against mine, whispering, "This will hurt later." "Then we'll hurt later," I said. Time folded in. There was no sound except breathing and the faint creak of the floor. Then she kissed my cheek, soft, deliberate, and stayed there, her lips against my skin, not moving. When she finally stepped back, her eyes were bright, wet at the edges. "That's enough," she said. "That's all it can be." I nodded. "I know." But neither of us turned away. She reached for my hand once more, fingers tracing my palm, a quiet apology, or maybe a promise. Then she let go. "Now you understand," she whispered. And I did. Not that it was over, or that it would ever be simple, but that we'd both found the truth we'd been circling all along. Wanting someone isn't the same as having them. Sometimes the wanting is the point. She didn't come the next morning. Her office light stayed off, the door closed. Her mug untouched on the corner of her desk. The silence she left behind had its own shape, like the space she used to fill couldn't decide if it missed her or was relieved she was gone. By noon, she called. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice was calm, but something in it felt like goodbye. She chose a small cafe 2 blocks from the office. I got there early. She didn't. When she finally walked in, the noise around us seemed to dim. No blazer this time, just a sweater, her hair down, eyes tired but kind. "You look different," I said. She smiled faintly. I stopped pretending it's easier than it is. We sat there for a while, not speaking. Just the clink of cups, the soft music, the kind of quiet that doesn't need filling. Then she said, "I asked for some time off." I looked at her, but she didn't look back. "You're leaving?" "For a bit," she said. "To think. To breathe." I nodded slowly, not trusting myself to say more. She watched me then, really watched, the way she used to, back in her office when every glance felt like a question neither of us could answer. "You think I'm running," she said. "Aren't you?" Her hand reached across the table, resting over mine. "Maybe, but not from you." Her fingers were warm, steady. "I've spent years choosing safety over feeling anything real," she said. "And then you showed up and ruined my peace." "I'm sorry," I said, even though I wasn't. She laughed softly. "Don't be. You reminded me I'm still alive, that I can still want something for no good reason." We sat there like that, her thumb tracing slow circles on my hand, both of us quiet, the air thick with something that wasn't quite sadness and wasn't quite relief. After a while, she said, "You'll move on. You're supposed to." "Maybe," I said, "but I don't want to forget this." She squeezed my hand gently. "You won't. Some things don't fade. They just settle." Outside, the rain started again, softer this time. She stood, slipping her coat on. When I rose too, she hesitated, then stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. It wasn't a passionate embrace, not desperate, just real. Her head rested against my shoulder, her breath warm through my shirt. "Take care of yourself," she whispered. "And don't wait for me." "I won't," I said, though we both knew I would. She smiled, small, sad, grateful, and pressed a light kiss to my forehead. Then she walked out into the rain without looking back. I stood there watching until she disappeared into the gray. And for the first time, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like something finished but not broken. We hadn't ended. We'd simply found the point where wanting turned into memory. And somehow that was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?